The most I like about Budapest is that it's a very international city.
About some recommendations that you can give us?
You have to have a very good and very personal motivational letter. You don't need Hungarian language.
Did you feel lonely when you moved?
And it's very important which first priority you choose.
How to pass successfully the interview process?
The biggest challenge was to find an apartment to live.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we have an incredible interview with one of the winners of Stipendium Hungaricum Scholarship, and this is a series of interviews that I'm doing in my channel with my international friends, and this is Anastasia. She will talk about herself more in details. She has won twice for master and PhD degrees Stipendium Hungaricum, and I'm sure that her experience will be super useful for you. Thank you so much, Nastya, for coming to our interview, and tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we will go into question parts.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here and to share my experience, and I hope it will be useful for other students who wish to apply for scholarships and maybe come to Hungary. As you said, I applied for masters in Budapest back in 2018, and I studied for 2 years in Peter Pázmány Catholic University in Hungary in the program of international relations. And after that, I applied for the doctoral studies in Corvinus University. Yeah, and now I'm in my last year of the doctoral program. Yeah, so I didn't have a break in my studies, and we will maybe take that later also, but you can apply in Stipendium Hungaricum Scholarship for the next level program, so the same person can apply twice. You can't apply for the masters twice, but you can apply for bachelor and masters, for example, or masters and doctoral program.
So it's possible if you want to apply for, like, consequently for second program, right?
Yes, if you apply consequently, it's possible, and that's what I did.
Yeah, great. This is very, I'm telling you, this is very unique case, because my case, it was only PhD. I was doing master and bachelor in another country. So yes, maybe the first question will be, why have you decided to choose to study in Hungary in first place, before we go to application process, to your work experience in Budapest, because I know that you also were working, right, in Hungary as an international student, and your general impression of living there. So why did you want to move to Budapest?
So my original goal when I finished my bachelor in Kiev, I wanted to go abroad. I wanted to improve my English, and I wanted to be in the international community with the students around the world, because I really like different cultures, and that's what was my goal. Not Budapest exactly, but also I wanted to apply for scholarships, because I don't have financially the opportunity to afford studies abroad. So I applied to many scholarships in different universities. I applied to Germany, also Slovakia, and about Hungarian scholarship I knew accidentally, and back then in 2017, 2018, it was not that popular. It was just the beginning of this program, and in Ukraine no one knew about it, so I just knew from the website of the university where I studied, and I just applied, and I was happy to get awarded with the scholarship. I've been to Budapest several times. I really love the city, so I was very happy to study in Budapest, and I applied to universities in Budapest, because you can apply to universities around Hungary. I think the most I like about Budapest is that it's a very international city. So you will see people from all over the world. It's a very popular place among expats. Many people come to work here if they work remotely. Or especially it's popular among international students, because the scholarship covers more than 100 countries, I think.
Oh, yes.
And you can meet basically anyone in Hungary, and you don't need Hungarian language to live in Budapest. And also I love how the city is comfortable. for living. So everything is here. The transportation, I love the transportation because you don't need a car to get anywhere. You can just
I agree.
yeah, you can use public transportation, and that's basically enough. And it's very comfortable. There are no not too many people, like for example in Kiev, it's just you suffocating in the transportation system sometimes.
You have mentioned the language barrier, right? Like, let's talk a little bit about that. You said that you don't have to speak Hungarian. I have mentioned in some of my videos also that you don't have to, but did you feel any language barrier? Maybe you can just open up a little bit this question.
Yes, so when I came, first you have to do a lot of documentation, you have to visit a lot of governmental institutions. And back then in 2018 it was kind of problematic because no one was speaking English. But now, like when I apply again for residence permits and for new documents, I would say that much more and more employees are actually speaking English.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that I would have any problems in the bank or I don't know, in any governmental office explaining myself. Also, I can always use Google Translate. I would say that everyone is friendly to foreigners because there are so many of us, especially students. There are many, like even when you do documents, there are special offices for students, for international students. Also in your daily life, if you go to do some groceries, shopping, whatever, everyone is like, you will almost always find someone who speaks English. But even if they don't speak English, they will be still friendly, and like it's kind of intuitive what to do in transportation. Also, there is like always English translation. So yeah, I would say I never had any problems. But of course, when I just arrived, I had 2 courses, 2 semesters of Hungarian language.
Yeah.
So I
Because
know
it's
some
mandatory,
basics.
right? Yeah.
Now it's mandatory, yes. For masters and bachelor,
Yeah,
I think, yeah. For PhD, it's not. Yeah, so I mean, it's enough. Those 2 courses, they are enough to understand what's happening around you, to do some groceries, to buy stuff, to like orient in the space.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
yeah, it will be totally enough.
If you share some of the challenges you had when you just arrived to the city, what would you mention?
The biggest challenge was to find an apartment to live. And in the beginning, I didn't know if I will have a dormitory place, so it was not like clear, yeah, for me. So I arrived 1 week before the studies just to search for a flat because I tried back then, like I was in Ukraine, and I tried to find online, but it's like, especially when you don't know the language, you don't know how it works, you don't know where to search, it was complicated. So I decided to come to Hungary and search for the flat. And yeah, it's always complicated in Hungary to find a place to live. Eventually I was lucky because I got the place in a dormitory, and but I would say that for most of my friends and for most people that I know, that's always the most challenging part. And even for me, I was afraid that if I don't find a flat, I will just say no to the scholarship, because I would say that that's the most problematic thing. And I would recommend, if you have a chance to stay in a dormitory for the first semester at least, I would strongly recommend you to do that, even if it's not the best place, even if you have to travel, like to commute for 45 minutes. It's still better to stay in a dormitory when you just arrive to a new country, because you never know. Sometimes I've heard stories about scams that you can like send money, they can send you photos, but then you arrive and it's a different flat, or there is no such flat at all and it was just a scam. So I would not advise you to rent a place while being back home. You have to come and to see this place and then rent it. Most of my friends, they just stayed for 1 semester in a dormitory, they searched for a place, and then they would move.
So you shared with us your experience. Now maybe we would ask you about some recommendations that you can give us. What are the most important things to consider before moving to Budapest?
Okay, so you will get a scholarship, of course, payment, but I would say that it's something maybe not so known, that first 2 months you most probably won't get scholarships. And especially when you just move, until you make all the documentation, you won't get scholarship payment. And I have some friends who didn't get scholarship until November, sometimes even December. So you have to consider this, and you always have to have some amount of money with you, just to be prepared that in case something happens, even if you get scholarship on time, you still have to know that there always should be some savings, because you're coming to a different country. You can encounter many different things, many expenses. I don't know, you can just be so excited and lose all your stuff in some train or whatever. There are different kinds of stories that I've seen during these years. So I would say that you definitely need some savings with you for the first period of time. And also, you should consider that the amount of money that you get for bachelor and masters is not enough for living in Hungary for a month. So you definitely need to bring savings, or you need to find a job, which is not so easy. So I would say still, I would encourage you to bring savings with you. With PhD, it's easier because we get much more amount of money, and I would say that that's exactly what you need to survive in Hungary is the PhD scholarship.
Okay, talking about money and cost of living. Ukraine is also in Europe, right? And maybe you would say, how would you describe the cost of living in Budapest and in your home country?
Yeah, of course, Hungary is more expensive, and yeah, in Hungary, the cost of living in Hungary is much more expensive than in Ukraine. I would say that when I came to Hungary, to rent a flat was much cheaper. Also, back in 2018, for me, it was enough the master scholarship. Like, it would be okay to spend 40,000-50,000 forints back then for the whole
food,
month,
yeah.
for food. Now it's just 1 week.
You have mentioned that it's better to find a job, but we will talk about finding job and how you did it. But before going there, I would ask you, maybe, are there any hidden costs and surprises that international students know before moving to Hungary?
I would say that the first thing to consider is that not in all the countries you have to pay deposit for the flat when you rent it. And in Hungary, it's like usually you pay 2 months deposit and you will get it back once the renting contract is over and if all the conditions are met. Yeah, and also additionally, you have to pay the first month's rent. And also you always have to consider that it doesn't usually include utilities and the common cost. So when you see the advertisement in Facebook or whatever group you use to, whatever platform you use to search for the flat, it's you have to always ask for the hidden cost, if there are additional utilities or the common cost, because it's not always so obvious. Approximately understand that you will pay around 1,000 euro for sure in your first month just for renting the flat, but it's just the flat, so it will be much more. And also you will just move to a new country, you will have to buy stuff for your flat, your facilities, yes. Yeah.
And I know that a lot of students, they don't buy stuff, like new stuff from the shop, because it's much more expensive. They use like special groups that I can share in the description of the video, where people sell their used stuff. It's like mostly students who are moving out, or the expats that are moving out from the country. So you can just buy from there. It will be much cheaper, right?
Yeah, there are also a lot of Chinese shops around the city, and you can just buy there. It's much cheaper there, and yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So let's go to the second part of our interview about your experience with applying to Stipendium Hungaricum as a master student and later as a PhD student. Tell me, how did you apply? What we should consider as a people, as a students who want to apply, and you can tell about master degree first and then PhD degree. You can mention maybe something from motivation letter, because we know it's very important, from your research proposal, because it's also very important, right, when you're applying for PhD.
Okay, yes. So for master students, I would say that the most important thing is, apart from your academic performance and of course English test, IELTS or TOEFL, you have to have a very good and very personal motivational letter. So I would say that that's the most important thing, because sometimes you might be not the best candidate, but your motivation will always be the most decisive factor in how committee decides. But also I would say that for the master's program, it's very important. So when you apply for Hungarian scholarship, there are priorities. I think it's 2 or 3 universities. And it's very important which first priority you choose, because if you get accepted to the first priority, you have to study there. You can't say no and choose the second priority, even if you are accepted to both. So it's very important to be strategic about this. You have to know where you want to study more. And also it's, for example, I know cases with PhD students when they were not accepted for the first choice, but they were accepted for the second choice, and eventually they didn't get the scholarship because all the places from their country were taken. So you should also, like, for me, this decision is very strategic. So you should check requirements from the universities that you apply and kind of predict where you would be the most fit. So if you see that your academic performance or your English is not C1 as they require, I would better not choose it as first priority. But if you have, for example, B1, you can find still universities which accept B1 students, and then you put it as your first priority and you have more chances. The same about PhD, but with PhD, I would say that the most important thing is, of course, your research proposal. Research proposal, I would recommend you to write the answer to 3 important questions is what, why, and how. So what you're gonna research, why, if you like research some topic and they would want to know why they should finance you and not someone else with the same topic. So you should show that you are interested in this topic. So of course, apart from that, you will have motivation letter about why you want to study in that university, but in the research proposal you have to mention why you are interested in this topic also, and your motivation in this topic, like in the research of this topic. And I would say also how is very important, because it's basically your methodology and how you will do the whole process, because very often universities are interested in your methodology more than in anything else, because sometimes your topic might be not so interesting, but you have a very interesting methodology and they will be very much interested in your topic. And also for PhD, I would say that also here you should be strategic about which universities, because for example, when I applied, I was checking all the universities and which topics they are interested in. So I would check professors which work in those universities and which topics they supervise for other students, or which articles they publish. And back when I applied, I had to contact supervisors directly and ask them to be my supervisor. Now it's not like that in most universities. I think you have to just send it to general administrative email, and they will decide for you if they have a supervisor or no. But still, I think it's very useful, because you know in which topics that university is interested. And for example, you can see that this topic is already taken by someone else, so most probably they won't be interested in you. And you have to kind of sell your research proposal also. You have to sell your topic. You have to be sure before the interview that they are interested in your topic. And also a little secret, that when you're already enrolled, you can always change your topic. So so it's not like, of course, not completely, but you can modify it. And also the first 2 years you will have a studying period. They will teach you how to write your PhD, and of course your views might change. So it's very understandable that you might change your topic, and everyone knows that.
So about the second stage, going into interview, when you are invited for the interview, it's very exciting, I think. So could you share some advice how to pass successfully the interview for Stipendium Hungaricum, because you had two pieces of experience going through the interview?
I would say that the interview process is the most important element of this whole application process, because Basically, during the interview, you show that why it's you and not someone else. And that's, I would say, the decisive element for most of the applicants. As part of being a PhD student, I used to be sometimes as a committee member for bachelor students, applicants. And I've seen many times that students sometimes they might lack some knowledge about some specific fields that they apply. But when they show the motivation, it actually gives them a lot of points. And sometimes you're like, okay, that student knows a lot, but he knows nothing about our university. He is not motivated at all. Why should we take? He won't be interested even in studying. But if the person maybe lacks some knowledge, but he's so motivated and he, like, you can see that he will for sure like be interested in everything and he wants to study, he is eager to study, they will take him. So I think that for masters, it's very important to show your motivation. So I would advise you to read a lot about the university that you apply to read a lot about the program that you apply to. And of course, if they ask you in the end, if you have any questions, you should ask questions, because when you ask questions, it means that you are motivated and you're interested, you show interest. And it doesn't have to be a question about when I will know the decision about the scholarship, because it doesn't count. It has to be a question related to your studies. Of course, before the interview, you should read a lot about academic stuff and be ready for serious questions, because there is a part of questions where they want to know your knowledge, and also sometimes it's about the way you think, so that you have some logical thinking. Yeah, but of course, you also should show some knowledge. That's why I would advise you also to prepare a lot for the interview, but don't forget about a motivational part. It's very important.
What about PhD?
Yeah, for PhD, it's very different. PhD, in my experience and from the people that I know, usually it's very short interview, and it concerns only your topic. So you basically have like 10 minutes to sell your topic. And yeah, if you are successful in it, you will get it. But they don't really care about your knowledge, because yeah, like very rarely they ask questions, like some random questions about science, I don't know, about economics or whatever you apply to, but they ask related questions to the topic that you present. And they want, because they know that if you apply for PhD and if you already passed to the interview process, most probably you are not a stupid person. Most probably you know
you have motivation,
yes,
right?
they know that you are motivated, because not everyone will apply for PhD. Yeah, and in that moment they only want to know why it's you and not someone else, why your topic and not other topic. So basically you are selling your topic and you have to present it in a good way. You have to be ready to a lot of questions about your methodology and what we already talked about, how you will write it.
Okay, let's go further and talk a little bit about your experience at university, right? How much the professors are supportive and friendly towards international students?
Hungarians are very friendly, they are very open-minded, and I never experienced any discrimination towards myself, and I've never seen any discrimination towards people around me. And it's a very good thing actually about Hungarian scholarship is that you study in very, very international class. So you will have people from all over the world and maybe one or two Hungarians. So you will never feel that locals are more beneficial than you, because they are actually a minority there, because they, like, now more and more Hungarians apply for English speaking programs, but of course mainly foreigners are in English speaking programs. So you will never feel that. And also what I like about Hungary is that you are friends with professors, so they actually consider you as their colleagues. They don't consider you as someone below them, or like in post-Soviet countries, it's very often the case that teacher is always correct, the professor is always correct, professor knows better you're not allowed for your opinion if it's different from the professor. Here, they want you to have your own opinion. They want you to argue with them, and they consider you as equals, and you will never have to call them by their second name or whatever, like father name as we call it in post-Soviet countries. It's always their first name and that's it. And the atmosphere during the class is very friendly, and it's very different for me as Ukrainian. Also, I would say that in post-Soviet countries, very often we have our studies as a full-time job. So we study from 8 to 5, then we come home and then we prepare for the next day. We don't have student life mostly. If you study good, if you are a good student, you don't really have a student life. In Hungary, it's not the case. There are not so many classes. You always have time to have fun, to meet friends, to go to the cinema, to enjoy your life, and
Talking about student life and friends, have you been able to make friends? Did you feel lonely when you moved? Because for many students, I'm sure it's very interesting topic to think about. Some of them are scared that you will be alone and you will not make friends. So, what was your experience with that?
Yeah, I would definitely say don't be scared. It's just a new adventure in your life, and you will definitely meet new people because you're coming to a new country. And apart from you, thousands of people coming from their countries also to Hungary. So even when you're still in your home country, you can reach out to people through Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and you can make friends already before. And when you come here, as I said, you will be in a very international group. So there will be other students together with you in your program who will be also coming from different countries to study, and who are also scholarship receivers. And you will definitely make friends. You will definitely be not alone. And as I said, I advise you to be for the first semester in the dormitory, and then you definitely will meet new people. You will definitely socialize and participate in very different events, because when you live in dormitory, someone just wants to go somewhere and everyone just joins them.
Do you think that studying in Hungary gave you some kind of unique opportunities to network and to advance in your career?
Yeah, definitely. I am very happy with my choice. As I said in the very beginning, that my goal was to go abroad, to improve my English, to meet new friends, and I achieved all of that, I think, and I met so many incredible people with whom I still stay in touch. And speaking about job-wise, I also had very many opportunities thanks to all of this experience in Hungary. I got my first job in Hungary in an international company, and then I worked for 1 year in an international organization in Germany, and all of that would not be possible in the first place if I didn't come to Hungary.
So let's talk about job. We are going to the third part of our interview. So how did you find your first job in Hungary? Was it hard? Was it easy? Is it required to know Hungarian if you apply for a job?
It depends. So there are different kinds of jobs, of course, and there are different platforms to search for job. Apart from LinkedIn, there is also Glassdoor, and there is Facebook. It's very common to search jobs in Facebook, especially for foreigners. So I would recommend everyone to use Facebook, and that's basically how I found my first job. I've seen advertisement in Facebook, and that's how I applied. And also for foreigners, the best thing to do for the first job is to apply for jobs which need your language. So, for example, if you're Arabic speaker, you apply for Arabic speaking jobs, or if you Russian speaker, you apply for Russian speaking jobs, which are plenty. And it's basically will help you to find future jobs. So maybe it won't be that the best way.
Yeah.
It most probably will be some call center or whatever, but it will be beneficial for you to find your next jobs, because you already have experience in Hungary. Regarding language, it's not really necessary. For me, I don't know Hungarian. I never had jobs related to Hungarian language, and yeah, there are a lot of international companies in Hungary where you can work without Hungarian. It is harder to find those jobs, so you have to be ready that it won't be that easy. You won't find the job easily. It will take you months. What I do also, sometimes I just work remotely. I apply for different projects remotely, and that also helps.
Yeah, so this is very important maybe to mention about the new regulation, right? The new
Yeah.
migration law that is in Hungary. How did it change like the job market? Maybe you can just tell more because it's very important for the people who are coming now.
Yeah, basically, okay, when you come to Hungary, you should think why you are coming here. If you come just to study, then it's perfect. But if you want to stay in Hungary, then you should maybe consider it more carefully, because it's not so easy to stay in Hungary
Anymore.
Before it also was hard
Yeah.
to find a job, and now it's even harder, not job-wise, but visa-wise. So it's much harder now for foreigners to get visas.
Do you have any ideas where you want to move after Budapest? Because I know that many students use Budapest as a hub
Yeah.
to come to study and get European education and move to other countries.
Yeah, I agree that many students move after finishing studies in Hungary, and that's what I plan to do as well. I will just apply to jobs all over the EU and see what it brings to me. But I'm very thankful for everything what happened to me and what Budapest brought in my life. My life wouldn't be the same if I didn't come to Budapest. And as I said, like Budapest and Hungarian scholarship is not the same as all other scholarships. I don't know where you can meet so many people from so many countries just in one class, basically.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, and hope see you in next episodes.